What is going on, Fight fans? So we are back and we are going to do something. The tier list was so fun doing the popular boxers, and a lot of you guys recommended after that to do the best boxing games. So these are a list of the boxing games that I have played, and I'm sure I've played others when I was younger, but these are the ones that I could actually recall playing. So we're going to go ahead and put them on a list from elite, amazing, very good, good, or horrible. Where do these fall? Now, remember, I know I have to put the disclaimer all the time, but this list is subjective, which means it's opinion based. It is how I feel about what I experienced. This is not an attack on you, your morals, your desires, anything that you care about. I'm not trying to personally attack you if you feel that way because of this list that I'm going to construct right now. You can let me know down in the comment section below what you think is the order of these things, or if there's a game that you really like and you feel that it should have been in a different position, you can let me know. But again, this is my list and it is subjective. It is not the be all end all. But with that being said, let's go ahead and start putting these bad boys on the tiers. All right, so we're going to start first with 3D Boxing Online. Now, 3D Boxing Online, a lot of people don't even know much about it. It wasn't really popular, but it is a game that has come to my attention in recently in the past year or so, and I absolutely love it. So I'm going to put it in amazing. Why? Because 3D Boxing Online has the ability for you to block to protect from straight punches, and also block to protect from hooks. You can change your stance mid fight. So if you want to have your hands down, you could just press a button, your hands down. If you want to go peekaboo, you press a button, you're peekaboo. If you want to go Philly shell, you press a button, you're Philly shell. And you're consistently moving between those fight stance, and they're useful because it's physics based. The clinching is all based on the physics and just the clash between two fighters. So although they are stick figures, and I get that, I understand, I cannot for the life of me let the fact that the gameplay design is very close to what an actual boxing match would be, simply because they are stick figures. So in my opinion, although the game is very bare bones, I'm a person that likes to prioritize gameplay over like career mode or anything like that, and I believe that 3D Boxing Online is one of those top tier games. It is an amazing game because of its unique elements, where it does things that people still to this day don't do in boxing video games. All right, Creed Rumble Champions. This is going to go into horrible. I get it. It is a arcade boxing game. I get that. It's an arcade boxing game. It's not designed to be simulation. But when I play Creed Rumble Boxing, I'm not playing it to see a simulation experience, to feel a simulation experience. I'm playing it for the arcade experience that they are promising. The problem is that even that falls flat because the game is incredibly one-dimensional in its arcade design. It is very simplistic, and it's easy to completely game the system. You can do one move over and over and over and over and over again, and you can beat the computer even on the hardest difficulty, which is a testament to the poor design of the game. Now, they do some good stuff like montage workouts, but that thing gets repetitive literally after the first time you do it. You don't want to keep on doing it. It's just not fun, and the fighting is not fun enough. Are the graphics kind of cool? Yes. Is the fighting good at all? No. Too many flaws to Creed Rumble Boxing. Even the counter, where you're countering and they're countering and you're countering over and over and over again, even that is flawed because you could do it almost without any end, and if the person punched you first, you will automatically win that fight, because there's only a certain amount of dodges that can happen. You can game the system so much that it is really, honestly, in my opinion, really poorly made arcade boxing game. I get it. We're not looking at sim with Creed Rumble Boxing. We're looking at arcade, and that's even falling flat. Now, let's talk about Boxers Road 2. If anybody knows me, you know where this bad boy about to drop. Elite. Why? Because the gameplay is the pinnacle of Urtane Inc., I believe, the company that worked to make all the Boxers Road and Victorious Boxers game. This is the pinnacle of everything that they've learned, the pinnacle of that boxing game engine that they've built over the years, where the head movement was slick, the pivoting was spot on, the angle system was amazing, where you could literally rotate around your opponent. That's how much control you had in creating angles. The ability to switch from blocking to head sway to punch selection or punch targeting, where you could literally hit either the head or mid body or low body. It was very, very detailed. But you can't mention Boxers Road without mentioning how immaculate the career mode was and how intelligent the AI was. They had AI adaptability algorithms where if it's trying to be rough and be aggressive and it's getting tagged too much, when it gets to his corner, they start to tweak the algorithm to give him a chance. So he starts doing things like defending himself or being more judicious with his punches. If he's getting destroyed and you're like just hammering on him, they tweak the algorithm for it to be more defensive, so that it could survive and it can make it harder for you and try to find openings. It's an incredibly intelligent AI system with an insanely robust career mode, a game that I literally still play now, and season 3 is coming out soon, so stay tuned for that. But yes, a game that I still play now, even though I found out about it recently. It is a 2007 game, but boy, did they do it justice. Granted, the graphics aren't the best graphics in the world. They have a cartoony look to it, but if you could get past that stuff, as I mentioned, I always look past those kind of things. I care more about the gameplay. When you play the game, you realize, man, this game is good. Man, this game is good. Love Boxers Road, and it's honestly my favorite boxing video game of all time. Now, let's go on to boxing. Boxing came out in 1978. It is actually the first boxing game ever made. Fun fact, first boxing video game. This is gonna still go in horrible though, because I get it. If I was rating boxing in 1978, it may have been in very good or something. But because I'm rating boxing, and I literally played boxing the other day for the first time, because I'm rating boxing, I'm not trying to say, hey, look, it's for the times and all that stuff. No. I'm trying to understand how much it has in it and how deep the gameplay is. And if we're gonna be fair about this, boxing has no depth to it whatsoever. You actually could time the CPU and you could beat it, because it just punches in one rhythm. It's just a single rhythm punch, and it doesn't do anything else. The CPU doesn't wait and try to defend. It doesn't even use the block button ever. The CPU never blocks. This game had one, you could only move forward or backwards. You could press up to block, and then you punch. Right? And that is it. You can't punch the body, you can only punch the head, and if you time it, you get it. It is incredibly bare bones, one of the most bare bones things you'll ever see. But hey, listen, I played it. So if I played it, it's gonna be here, man. It's gonna be here. Creed Rise to Glory, I actually didn't like it. It's a tough one for me, but I'm going to have to put it in horrible. Now that this is a VR game, but it was I was so nauseous playing that game, because it wasn't, to me, it wasn't a well-designed boxing game. Yes, I could see my body, my full body, but just the way, when you get knocked out, you had to connect the two punches and put them, or connect your fists with the circles and come back, and it's a really disorienting experience. And the fact that there's a stamina meter when you're doing VR and you actually are using your body, and they're telling you, hey, look, now you're tired based on this meter. I think that is an incredibly horrible misstep for a VR game. It did not feel that you could actually, it didn't feel like you were in a boxing ring boxing. It felt like you were in a video game, and I don't think that should have been the goal. It should always be, if you're gonna do a boxing video game, that the person feels almost like they're boxing themselves. And Creed Rise to Glory failed, in my opinion, to do anything like that. Don King's Prize Fighter is going to fall in horrible. This game is so, the way the punches are thrown are so slow and so lethargic. The movement is so lethargic. The mini games, although there are many of them, they're very simplistic in how it's like Guitar Hero. It's not like you're actually doing it like you would see in Fight Night, where you're actually doing the stuff. It's more like a Guitar Hero kind of a thing where you're doing jump rope and things like that, which is cool that they have it. Now, don't get me wrong, but even the story mode in this is kind of cinematic in a way, which was a little bit ahead of its time, but it's all rooted down into the gameplay. If the gameplay is not good, there is nothing that you can do there's nothing that you could do. There's nothing that you can do to pull that game into something where there's a positive, memorable experience. Playing the game, yes, they had people like Juan Guzman, they had Shannon Briggs, which was super cool to have those kind of fighters. But at the end of the day, like it was just the worst, most lethargic gameplay ever, and it just didn't feel good. It didn't feel good. Now we got Fight Night Champion, and oh boy, we got Fight Night Champion now. Here we go. All right, so we got Fight Night Champion. I'm gonna put Fight Night Champion in amazing. All right, we got Fight Night Champion in amazing. Why? Because at the end of the day, it is still a good, an amazing boxing video game, right? They have a lot of licensed fighters. They have people like Manny Pacquiao. They have Mike Tyson. They have Muhammad Ali. They have, Oscar De La Hoya. It's a really good game. They lack in a few things. For example, they have a one-button block system, which leans too heavy in arcadey because of the fact that one button block is what you get with all the other the Mortal Kombat stuff. Boxing is much more complex than that and much deeper than that, and the meta of the game materialized to kind of force gameplay to not even look necessarily like boxing when people are playing it at the highest level, and that's disappointing. But the graphics were nice, the punch flow was good, the punch impact felt good, even though the sounds were weird. But Fight Night Champion is also the last licensed boxing game that we've had, and they did a decent job. Not a crazy. They didn't come out with an elite game, but they definitely came out with an amazing game. And I definitely think that Fight Night Champion deserves to at least be in the amazing tier. Now we got Fight Night Round 3. I put Fight Night Round 3 in amazing as well. Now, I actually like Fight Night Round 3 more than Fight Night Champion, but I do not think that Fight Night Round 3 makes it all the way to being elite. However, it is really good. With the offensive meta, they actually forced you to care about the jab, because all the other punches were more riskier because they incorporated a 6-axis parry system, or a 4-axis parry system with a 2-axis block system. So you can either block up or down, but if you block to the side, or if you block to your left or right, or left or right head, left or right body, what would end up happening is that you would create a parry. The thing is, depending on what type of punch your opponent threw would determine how long they would be in that parry window, making it seem incredibly, it looked very, very gamey, like a video game, because that parry was so slow. But if you didn't think too much about just that parry system and how slow you were, everything else was amazing. The punches didn't feel like they had good impact, but the way you could just jab, the way you can move around the ring, how much you can flow in that game, the combinations that if you landed, how quickly you could throw them out, as long as you land all your combinations. it was very it was done very, very well, and Muhammad Ali in this game felt like Muhammad Ali. Sugar Ray Robinson felt like Sugar Ray Robinson, and it was a game that was, to me, very enjoyable. And I love that the meta pushed towards the jab being the predominant offensive tool, like it should be in real boxing. But I did not like that parry system and how it worked in the game. Should you have a parry? Yes. Should it be so gamey and arcadey like that? Absolutely not. All right, we got Fight Night Round 4. We're going to put Fight Night Round 4 in amazing. I actually like Fight Night Round 4 better than Fight Night Champion, simply because it almost feels like Fight Night Champion. Fight Night Round 4 and Fight Night Champion are very similar. However, the CPU is actually much more difficult in Fight Night Round 4, more robust, and the blocking is at least a 2-axis system where you block the head and the body, which allows for you to, one, your block is more pristine, so it could actually retain itself better. Since Fight Night Champion had to figure out what to do, since they don't want people just holding the block all the time, they created a block meter which caused pump blocking, so that you could kind of constantly reset that meter and your block doesn't break down. Fight Night Round 4 was a little bit different because you could be getting hit in the body. You could block your head forever. The person would just hit your body. You could block your body forever. The person would just hit your head. And that created a better confusing thing with your opponent where you're trying to outthink them. And I think that I prefer that system better because it's closer to real life, as opposed to just because I'm holding my block, it's just the block is just deteriorating. I don't think that that's as realistic as Fight Night Round 4. So CPU was harder and the block was a 2-axis block system. The punches felt a little rubbery to me in Fight Night Round 4, but all in all, when you take all the pieces and put them together, it's a better version, in my opinion, than what Fight Night Champion was. It's a better Fight Night Champion, essentially. All right, Fight Night 2004 is going to go to Elite. Fight Night 2004 is going to go to Elite because this is where they did it right. You had a good block system. Yes, you couldn't move, but that was the trick. Because you couldn't move, you didn't abuse it because you would just be a sitting duck. So you actually will move up to the person, block, and then start trying to throw combinations. This is the first time they implemented head movement. This is the first time they had a parry system, and the parry system actually worked well here. You had the 6-axis, and when you blocked, the person just, the parry window was very small. They weren't there for a long time. They were just there for like a second, and you were able to hit them. Granted, I felt like it should have been even shorter than that. It should be like super quick, but it's much closer to what it is in real life. If you were a good player, you almost always won versus anybody else because it was very hard for somebody to get just a flash knockout on you in this game. I don't even think you could get a flash knockout. You would maybe get a flash knockdown, but that's still, you can get up from that. But either way, Fight Night 2004 had good footwork as well. If you got next to the ropes, you would actually side pedal and move to your side to try to avoid your opponent. So the combination flows was beautiful, and the punch impact felt beautiful in this game as well. The boxing was just there. You can jab, you can work the jab, you could punch outside of, once the person releases the guard, you could punch in between people's attacks and time all that stuff. Fight Night 2004, in my opinion, is my favorite Fight Night or my favorite EA boxing game ever made. And I think for a long time, until I played the Victorious Boxer series, which I did recently, Fight Night 2004 was my favorite boxing video game of all time. Now we're going to talk about Fight Night Round 2. Fight Night Round 2, I'm going to put it in very good. I didn't really like Fight Night Round 2 a lot. I didn't really like it. I still think it's a very good game, but I didn't really like it much because this is when they look at the data from Fight Night 2004, and they saw that people weren't using the sticks because the buttons were more quicker. With the sticks, you had to pull back and shoot, and that creates a time gap. And if you're playing against somebody else, like somebody who's pressing the button while you're going like this, that person pressing the button is going to hit you much quicker. So it was the meta, of course, with Fight Night 2004, which just press the buttons. There's no point in using the analog sticks to punch. However, their kind of workaround was like, oh, well, we'll make people use it because the benefit would be that you could punch harder by pulling your punch back. What ended up happening was that Fight Night Round 2, although it should have been a better version of Fight Night Round 3, or I'm sorry, Fight Night 2004, because it had the same elements with the ability to block and move, which I think blocking and moving took away a little bit from the strategy play that came from Fight Night 2004, but it became a haymaker fest. Everybody was just doing the haymaker because the haymaker was weighed heavily. The weight of haymakers was weighed heavily in the judging system. So if I was tagging you with jabs, but you hit me with a few haymakers, if I was tagging you with jabs and some straights and some hooks, but you just did a few haymakers, your haymakers would actually be enough for the judges to give you that round. It was so heavily leaning towards haymakers that to me it destroyed the experience. And you know, like, sure, if you got two people that didn't do the haymakers, great, but you would have to literally come to that agreement. And why would anybody do that when the haymaker's right there? Everyone's gonna want to throw those haymakers, rack up the damage, and rack up the on the scorecards, since the weight of the haymakers was so heavy on the scorecard. So to me, that made Fight Night Round 2 unfortunately fall a little bit flat. Knockout Kings, the original, I'm gonna put it at horrible. Yes, I know. I'm sorry to anybody. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. But if you actually play this game, it is incredibly, like, it's so bare bones. There's not much going on. There's not much that's happening. It's just like, it's nothing. There's nothing going on. Yes, you're punching and there's commentary finally, but that's all it is that they're basically riding the novelty of you can move around in the ring, and this is one of the first games where you can do that. It's like, okay, great, I like that, thanks, nice, but you gotta give me more than that. You gotta give me more than that. There wasn't much to the game. You just racked up some, you just hit your opponent, and there wasn't much that you could do. You couldn't sidestep, you couldn't angle, you couldn't move out the way, you couldn't hit with a powerful shot, you couldn't do any of that stuff. So in my opinion, it was so boring because it was so bland that to me, Knockout Kings was a horrible experience. It was a horrible experience. Now, Knockout Kings 2003, I'm gonna also put in horrible. And then before you guys go crazy on me, I'm gonna explain myself. The reason I put Knockout Kings 2003 in horrible is because this came out for the GameCube, and Knockout Kings 2003 was just an update to Knockout Kings 2002, and it's an insult that they even called it Knockout Kings 2003. It is literally Knockout Kings 2002 with a few more fighters and a slightly increased graphics. To call it Knockout Kings 2003 as if it was a new iteration to the series is an insult, and because of that insult, I'm putting it in Knockout. I'm putting it in horrible. All right, there you go. Knockout Kings 2001. We're gonna move Knockout Kings 2001 to amazing. And the reason why Knockout Kings 2001 goes to amazing is because they did a lot of innovative stuff, man. They actually was leaning into simulation boxing, with the jab being snappy and the movement of the legs having a great flow to it. There was a methodical pace that you could create there, and there were small things that are still not done anywhere else to this day, where you could clinch and punch in the clinch. And they also had women fighters. This was the last game to have that, to have women fighters in the game. And I think it was an amazing boxing experience because of that. It was definitely an amazing boxing experience because of that. All right, now we got Knockout Kings 2002, and I'm gonna put Knockout Kings 2002 in good. I didn't really enjoy Knockout Kings 2002 that much. It was okay. It wasn't the greatest, but it wasn't the worst either. It's hard to say. It was all right. The thing with 2003 is that everyone was moving super fast. Everyone had that loose footwork, basically, how it is in ESBC. Everybody had the loose footwork at all time. They were constantly moving and turning their bodies and moving and throwing these super fast jabs. It felt like a fighting game where everyone's the same and everyone's super fast. And to me, that didn't give me that feeling where boxing, you could just relax, calm down, be methodical, like what you got from Knockout Kings 2001. Honestly, of the Knockout Kings, in my opinion, I believe Knockout Kings 2001 is the best one. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and look at Knockout Kings 2000. Knockout Kings 2000, I'm going to put at also good. They improved the formula of Knockout Kings, the regular Knockout Kings, and they started doing it a little bit better, but it's just not enough. It wasn't enough. It's not like what they did the following year with the Knockout Kings 2001, where they added that methodical and simulation feeling. It was pretty much Knockout Kings. It was pretty much the first Knockout King, like 1.5, right? So it did enough to just edge it out to get to good, but it didn't separate itself enough from that game, and it still didn't have much much that you could get out of it. The cool thing with these Knockout Kings, though, these early ones, is that Jimmy Lennon Jr., who is actually the announcer now for ESBC, the person who announcing the fighters to come in and before the start of the fight, he's actually the announcer for these titles as well, which is cool. Now we got Mike Tyson Punch-Out, and I'm gonna put Mike Tyson Punch-Out at very good. It's very good because, remember, when I'm thinking of these things, I'm not thinking which one is more simulation than the other. That's not what I'm thinking. I'm thinking what was the experience playing the game. We went into Mike Tyson Punch-Out thinking, hey, this is a game where I'm controlling a guy from like a third person view and I'm trying to dodge punches. Am I having fun here? 100% yes, I'm having fun. So I definitely had a lot of fun playing Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. Mike Tyson is still to this day one of the scariest boss fights of all time, considering the fact that Mike Tyson only needs to hit you once, so you essentially have to be perfect. I thought that was really cool and bold for them to be like, hey, listen, let's just make it so Mike Tyson touches you, is a wrap. But it created this really fun experience where you're on the edge of your seat the entire time, trying not to get knocked out by Mike Tyson, who only needs to hit you once. And that whole dodge, a punch was simple, but it was fun. It worked. Ready to Rumble. We're gonna put Ready to Rumble. I think this is Ready to Rumble Boxing 2. We're gonna put Ready to Rumble Boxing 2 at very good. It was fun. It was a fun game and arguably one of the best arcade boxing games of all time. Everybody felt unique. Everybody felt different. Afro Thunder was obviously my favorite. I'm sure Afro Thunder was a lot of people's favorites. But you had special attacks and all this stuff. It was really innovative for the time. Even though this is part 2, this is Ready to Rumble Boxing round 2. It bounced very well off of Ready to Rumble Boxing when it came out. And then, of course, not gonna talk too much about Ready to Rumble Boxing. To me, they were both good. I don't think that this, regressed from this one, and this one already set the standard. So this set the standard, and this one just pushed it a little bit further forward. But both of these titles, in my opinion, were very good. They had really good gameplay and really good fun experience. Definitely not simulation, but it was a really good boxing fighting game, if you will. All right, Real Boxing. I wish I could go lower than horrible, but I'm going to have to put Real Boxing in the horrible category. Both Real Boxing 1 and Real Boxing 2. I don't have Real Boxing 2 here. I played them both, though. I probably should have had it here, but either way, just put Real Boxing 1 and Real Boxing 2 in the same category because it's the same thing. It's a bad game. Even when it went to PC and now you can move around the ring, it's still bad. The punches are super slow, super floaty, and it's all super arcadey, like way all over the top. And I get it, it's an arcade boxing game, but it didn't. If you're gonna be an arcade boxing game, you have to let me feel like the game is fun. That's the point. If not, there's no point in playing you. You're not here to be simulation cool. You're here to be arcade. So how fun are you? How fun are you? And Real Boxing is just like horrible experience. Not fun whatsoever. Rocky for the PS2. I'm actually going to give Rocky for the PS2 a very good. The gameplay was actually fun. You had to memorize so many different punch combinations to do specific things, which I didn't particularly enjoy. But if you did that, it was like a never-ending list of things you could have done with combinations that were very simulation-like in its animation. So I thought it was super cool how different that was. The dodging was cool. The blocking was good. How you can counter was good. And let's not forget the mini games. Let's not forget the training mini games where you could do it with 2 players and compete against somebody else while you're jumping rope or while you're hitting the speed bag or while you're doing pull-ups. I think that was super unique and super cool. It was the icing on the cake was obviously the gameplay and how you could, if you wanted to, you could be a slick style fighter with you rolling under punches and stuff. I thought it was really nice. Everything complemented itself very well, and it actually was a sleeper hit to me. Not a lot of people talked about it, but I played it recently, and that's the crazy thing. I played it recently. I didn't play it back then. I played it recently, like maybe a year ago or a year and a half ago, and I absolutely thought it was an incredible experience. Very enjoyable. It was a Rocky game, but they were trying to go for they were trying to lean into real boxing or real simulation boxing. All right, thrill of the fight, we're gonna go with very good, because thrill of the fight is how you do a VR boxing game. It is still to this day the best VR boxing game ever made. Why? Because it uses room scale. So you're not moving with an analog like you are with Creed Rise to Glory and feeling nauseous because you're floating throughout the world. No, you're actually just walking in the allotted space that you have in your area, right? So you can move like that. You block with just wherever you put your glove. If you put your glove here, it blocks. There's not like a thing that just automatically blocks because you put it in the right spot. You can do anything. You have full freedom. There is no stamina bar. So if you want to throw 100 million punches, 100 million punch combo, you can throw 100 million punch combo. You're going to be tired as all heck, but you can still throw it because your own stamina and your own cardio, is the stamina and cardio of the gameplay. It's just based off of yourself. And I think that that's an amazing way to do it. It felt so free. It felt so like you controlled every aspect of it. Now, of course, there's certain things that, for example, feints and stuff that didn't really do anything to your opponent. Your opponent kind of was like on an autopilot. Like it's gonna do what it's gonna do regardless, and you couldn't really change what he's gonna do with like being sneaky or being smart. And I think that that's kind of a misstep. But other than that, the feeling of actually boxing when you're playing the game is there. You do have that feeling. It's almost like shadow boxing, but like with an entertaining flair to it, where you could actually see something and you don't have to imagine it like you would when you're shadow boxing. All right, so let's move on to Victorious Boxers 2. I'm going to put in amazing. Now, the same people that made Boxers Road made the Victorious Boxers game as well. And they just, they innovated. They were the ones that created the head movement stuff. This was one of the first games to do that, the angle system, where if the person was busy, you could angle off of them and they would have to literally like step back or kind of turn around to get back into the position where they're facing you. So it was just such a beautiful game. The way it worked, the story mode was super cool. You had a nice story mode with coming off of the Hajime no Ippo anime. They did a really good job. But all in all, it's essentially like if it needed that umph to get up there, Boxer's Row was what gave it that umph to make it elite. It did everything right. Now you in Boxers, Victorious Boxers 2, you couldn't block. But in Boxer's Row, you could block. Not only could you block in Boxer's Row, you could block and then switch to sway, which was super innovative. Super, super innovative. Anyways, this is my tier list. We got Elite, we got Fight Night 2004, and we got Boxer's Row 2. Amazing. We got 3D Boxing Online, Fight Night Champion, Fight Night Round 3, Fight Night Round 4, Knockout Kings 2001, and Victorious Boxers 2. Very good. We got Fight Night Round 2. We got Mike Tyson's Punch Out. We got Ready to Rumble Boxing Round 2. We got Ready to Rumble Boxing. We got Rocky for the PS2. And we got for VR, we have Thrill of the Fight. Good. We have Knockout Kings 2002 and Knockout Kings 2000. And horrible, of course, we have Creed Rumble, Big Rumble Creed Champions Boxing. We have Boxing, the 1978 game, the first ever boxing game ever. We have Creed Rise to Glory VR. We have Don King's Prize Fighter. We have Knockout Kings. We have Knockout Kings 2003. And we have Real Boxing. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Is this a list that you would have put together? Would it be similar to this one? Is this a good list? Am I in the ballpark of what you think? And what do you think is the best elite games? Let me know down in the comment section below. This is so fun. I love doing tier lists. I don't know. Maybe I'll do another tier list. Again, give me some ideas on another tier list to do. All right, guys. I will see you in the next one.